Hey, Chris Liepe here. As a slight rabbit trail from the Wren rabbit hole, lots of you have been recommending I check out Sam Tompkins. I haven't listened to his voice at all, so I have no idea what to expect, but from what people are saying, he's on Chinchilla's level, which is a pretty high level in terms of vocal playfulness and exploration and power and all that stuff. So, that is some genuine losing yourself in the moment. That kind of connection with a listener can only happen when you, as a performer, as a lyricist, as a singer, are lost in your own experience. And then that experience gets shared with the other person. You're never going to get there if you are paying attention too much to the technicalities or hitting certain notes or making sure you got things right. It doesn't work that way. And the back half of this song especially reminded me of that. Check out this playlist for all the Wren vocal analyses and reactions I've done lately, and I will certainly be checking out more Sam Tompkins. I look forward to diving into their collaborations as well. Again, if you'd like more help with your own voice and figuring out what it can really do in a non-judgmental, inspired way, click the link below and join my free voice course. We'll see you for more. There is this, what seems to be a growing trend that I'm really getting into, live one-take performances. And it's bringing back what I love about vocal performances and why I like going to concerts so much. It's that, well, I've heard the record, can he do it? Oh, whoa, that's different than the record, but it's really awesome. And for those of us on our own singing journey, digesting and learning from these one-take performances is just such a wonderful thing to be doing. I haven't seen this one-take performance yet. I've heard the original song, the studio version of it, and so I'm super excited to see how this is executed and related to by Eddie Berg. If you'd like more help pulling from your heroes, your inspirations, and learning how to sing in a way that allows you to be free and non-judgmental as you explore the possibilities with your voice, click the link below and join my free voice course. All right, let's do this. Oh, did you hear the transition between the different types of screams that were happening? That's awesome. Let's go back and listen to that again and analyze it briefly. Okay, right there. There is no inherent note even buried behind the scream that's happening. I've talked about this a lot on other videos, but watch how he adjusts the pitch in this noteless or voiceless scream with his mouth being the filter. It's higher or lower based on how he's holding his mouth, not based on what he's doing with his primary chords. Oh, oh, right? That's drawing the pitch, the perceived pitch downward, even though there's no note. Then there's that note behind, buried underneath this massive amount of distortion. It's key that we recognize this difference. Now we're back to voiceless scream as opposed to sing scream. These approaches are so different in how they feel and how they work in our throat, even though they're using some of the same mechanisms, some of the same tissues. The way we think about them has to be vastly different. By the way, the touch with the live violin is just, causes me to breathe deeper. I love these fusions of genres that are happening.
Time has come to wait as one. The suffering has just begun.
You really can tell whether he's, even if you're not listening to it, you can tell whether he's using voiceless screams or whether he's using pitch screams based on the exaggerated movements of his face. When he was doing the sing scream earlier, yeah, the pitch was changing, but his mouth was much more consistent. Also, listen to what happens with his voice. Subtle. A thousand. There's this voice crack in there. This gives a ton away about this particular approach. On thousand. Thousand! Thousand! You're really leaning into that false chord engagement that's caused by the breaking up of your natural singing voice. There's that giveaway because you hear those little chirps if you listen really carefully, and because you hear the pitch. That's very different than the earlier voiceless way of getting into these screams. Now, there's two ways to do voiceless screams that a lot of people embrace: an upper constricted sensation and a lower constricted sensation. The upper constricted usually creates a higher tonality, although the shape of your mouth can create lots of different tonalities out of that. And the lower constricted generally creates a richer, meatier sound, although that, based on what you do with your mouth, can create highs and lows as well. And to dive into these different types of screaming engagements and sounds, click the other link in the description to explore the course that I've done with Lorna Shore's Will Ramos.
Tonight,
you hear how he squeaked out of that last scream? That was cool. Oh, he did it way more obviously there. That was awesome. Vulnerability there, right? As he's leaning back. Pain! Oh.
There's no final remedy to the dark that fastens in my heart. Just a bittersweet tragedy when death is nothing at all.
I love his clean tone. Nothing at all. You can tell it's very forward and resonant, even though he's got a higher, more tenor sound to his voice. He's getting a richness out of his voice because of the way he's choosing to experience it and the resonances and placements he's leaning into. You can see it in his mouth.
Just a bittersweet tragedy when death is not.
You see how much movement there is in his face, even when he's saying these words? It's not about enunciation, it's about dynamic resonance, and that brings out a richness in his voice that he wouldn't have if he wasn't dynamically moving and placing.
There's no final remedy to the dark that fastens in my heart. Just a bittersweet tragedy when death is nothing at all. Reverse.
All right, a different kind of engagement than the beginning with the screams here. And you can hear it in the way the high is a bit more, there's a bit more airflow happening with that high engagement. This stuff is based more off of a sigh approach. If you followed my channel at all for the past few months, you've heard Will Ramos demonstrate this type of constriction. It's a different, looser, beefier sound than what he was doing at the beginning. Really interesting that he's incorporating all of these different things. So amazing that he can transition between all of these different approaches so well. This takes a lot of practice, a lot of introspection, and a lot of patience. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. He's bringing back some of the higher constricted approach with a mouth shape that brings a lower sounding scream, and he's bringing in some of the lower constricted approach with a higher sounding filter, a brighter filter, and you can see it in his mouth. Even as I talk, you hear the differences. Thanks so much for watching and analyzing this one take with me. Again, if you would like more opportunities to explore what you see Eddie doing here in this video, click those links in the description below. All right, we'll see you for more. Hey, Chris Liepe here. I did War of Being by TesseracT a little bit ago, and when Legion came out, lots of you were asking, where is it? Why haven't you done it yet? And I was feverishly replying in the comments, well, it's because Dan Tompkins might join me for this one. Well, Dan is here and gets to watch me experience Legion for the first time and give us all his insights into the recording process and how he does what he does with his voice. Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks for having me, dude. Appreciate it. I really enjoyed your video on War of Being, by the way.
how involved are you in writing and arranging the instrumentals?
But we normally start out with little seeds or like short 1-minute ideas and even shorter. And from the very moment of getting those from Ackle, which is primarily from Ackle, I just lay down my first impressions, the first thing that comes into my head. And then if Ackle enjoys that and if we feel like it gels, then we talk about the direction the song might go in. And often my influence is very much a direction on what I kind of envision the path to be like.
So your influence on the rough instrumentals, those seeds, create what we're hearing here. Like they're writing for your voice. Yeah. It's not like they have this instrumental and then you're going in and doing something to a finished bed.
Yeah, this particular track is slightly unusual. It breaks the mold for us because actually we went into the studio with only half an idea and we wrote the rest of it in the studio while we were together.
Oh, cool.
And the vocals came together by a very involved process. It was quite collaborative. But I would say like, you know, I went into the studio with all the lyrics written from my perspective. And I actually worked with a vocal producer this time.
Okay.
And so there were elements of, let's talk about this section. Let's see how we can mold it into the concept. And part of that process was actually ripping some of it apart and rebuilding it. And this is a good example of a song where that process was quite strong.
If you'd like to go deeper with Dan and this song in particular, click the link below to download the isolated vocals, and you'll get to hear all the little nuances that I'm about to discover in even greater detail. I want to talk a little bit about the posture you have right here. Like, there's this raspiness. I heard it at the very beginning, and then you've got a lot of exhale going on. I've talked about this in with other singers, but are these things? Do you consciously bring in these different postures and different perspectives on your voice when you're doing a recording like this, or did it just kind of happen?
I think there's a few different factors. Firstly, my age, my voice has changed, and I have been working very much on adding that rasp into my voice to the point where it's become quite intuitive. But you also have the fact that this is a concept album, so it's a deliberate choice to use multiple voices that represent a different character in the concept. So I'm a multi-voiced singer within the concept as well.
I totally heard that on War of Being, bouncing back and forth between these low growls and clean singing, and this is what you're saying is this is just setting us up for more characters.
All that raspy stuff and the rich screams, they are the manifestation of a character called Fear who manifests from the main protagonist in the concept. So you start to hear this kind of like separate entity splinter off and begin to manifest. That's the idea anyway.
It's so cool. And I don't think a lot of singers think that way. That like, yeah, there are multiple characters going on and being represented in the storyline. We can do that with our voices. That's what voice actors do. And a lot of the best singers also sort of have an understanding of what voice acting is about, because you're able to deliver so many different emotions by intentionally using different timbres and different techniques. It's not just about hitting notes.
Exactly. There's also, you just mentioned that I have quite a nice release here and there on the end of phrases, or to add some nice breath into the voice work. But also, if you concentrate on the start of the majority of phrases, I grew up from a very pop orientated background and then obviously dived into metal after. So a lot of my influences are scattered throughout this album. And I'm there's a lot of staccato, a lot of plosives, very tight on the entry to phrases, because it goes with the nature of the music being very punchy. And I find that to be quite impactful, but it's also dual functional because it actually sets me up. So that added bit of glottic stop that I get from the plosives, it gives me the energy and the release to sing some of these difficult phrases, and it all ties into breathing, etc. So it's a complicated but very useful process.
I want to hear those onsets a little bit more. Very percussive line. Yeah, we got to hear that again. I love that note took a little bit to actually center on the pitch. I can tell you didn't go in and draw it in to be completely accurate. That is awesome.
This is another interesting thing is a lot of those high lines, and there's a great example of this is on the last song on the album where the lyric is "We were never there," and there's this whole theme about trying to break free and reach a certain point. Okay, so I was very deliberate in making sure that I never was like completely on it. It was always like a drawn out effort to try and get there, but almost not get there. Sometimes, quite deliberately. It was all. I'd probably say this is the most well thought out record I've been involved in. But that's the beauty of having so much time.
Well, you can't get there, and you don't have that kind of flexibility with your singing if you're so focused on technique for technique's sake, or hitting notes for sort of this like badge of honor, like I just hit that E5 or whatever it was. If you lose the ability to focus on pure honest expression, and therefore even if you hit the note, it's maybe a bit contrived instead of like part of the greater artistic scheme. And I noticed that right away. It's like in this genre especially, you don't hear what we just heard that often. You don't hear someone going up for a note like that and it's like flat and then flat and then flat and then there it is. Okay. And it's it just causes you to clench and be involved so much more in the music when things are left expressive and not jerked into perfection.
It's also very real, right? People want to hear a real voice and a real tone and a real character and just real expression. And we tried to make this as dynamic and real as we could.
Yeah. Oh, so good. The posture is way different on that one too, because you go from the to more of a ah. There's an element of mix and brashness there that
there's a lot. There's more going on than what people realize, and this is why I loved watching your review, because I think as a singer, it's great to have awesome feedback and people saying, "Oh, that's amazing," But only a vocal coach, in my opinion, can really understand the complexity of the things that are happening, which is great.
Are you doubling that main line, or is it a single guy? It's tough to tell.
I think there may be a double in there,
but it's a center double. It's really precisely done. There's a bit of added texture there, but it's right up the center. First of all, those cleaner guitar sounds, the glassy, throaty, like almost Telecaster-ish sounds are so sick on that riff. Talk a little bit about your screaming approach here. These sound like side into that lower constriction, false chord engagement. Talk about this engagement versus some of your real high sounds when it comes to screaming.
The approach I normally take, where it's a sung note which is leaned into and has lots of compression. Whereas this new kind of like rich, open false chord engagement is actually quite new to me. I've only been doing it for about a year consciously to try and make it rich. But it is exactly as you said. There's a lot of breath entry into it, and that's obviously a great technique that a lot of extreme singers use to kind of like engage the false chords and be relaxed into those kind of screams. But I still try and lean into it and give it body, because I also want to have clarity in what I'm trying to articulate through my screams. I don't want it to be a mesh of just noise. So yeah, there's a lot of vocalization in it as well, combined.
Oh, I love all the layers. And I'm noticing this theme of like these parallel fourths and fifths going on in the background vocals. There's some dissonance there. I really like that.
I tend to lean towards that approach, to be honest. It's a bit of a, not to be a one-trick pony, but I get a lot of emotion from those harmonies. So I tend to revisit them quite a lot. But it is nice to have some variety. And also, I have to say that some of these BVs that you're listening to are actually my co-vocal producer, Kat Marsh. So we have a very similar timbre and colour, actually, even though she's a female singer. So there are some harmonies where you think it's me, and it's not. But the majority are. But because it also ties into the concept of we have these characters, X and L, which are male and female. And it was the perfect opportunity to bring that to life in the lyrics as well.
But you've deceived people with your higher head voice and mixed voice stuff earlier in the song, so they wouldn't even think twice about it had you not said something.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That is actually all me, though. By the
that
way.
one is
all
okay.
Those BVs are me. Yeah.
Start in this very breathy, unengaged, and then bring in the weight. It's one of the things I've noticed about your voice. You are a master of manipulating your vocal weight, right? In the form of compression, but also like this. Yeah, there's compression, but so much of what we hear is a tonal difference. And a lot of people try to say that, tone is, how you hold your face and what you're doing with your vowels. And this is all true. But by you backing off on the airflow and then compressing into certain notes, certain phrases, you're doing a ton for your tone right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to focus quite heavily on making sure that there's a real variety in the resonance that I'm using. So sometimes I'll be in my pharyngeal, sometimes I'll open up it, like split-second changes into my mouth and be breathy and then tighten it, and just it's that push and pull and release of it, like emotional attachment.
Yeah, and that does so much, especially when you're leaning into different levels of compression, right? You can have a pharyngeal engagement and be compressed, or a pharyngeal engagement and be breathy and sort of free. But it's like you can move things around on this palette in so many different ways, and it's fun to listen to. You don't hear it as much in this genre with the highly produced vocals and everything, I think it's there, but sometimes it's a little bit more subtle because you're not dealing with like a single vocal line.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a single exposed vocal line. So you've got to really get that performance right. Otherwise, it just doesn't do the magic.
That's a really sweet sigh into that one. Oh, you did it! You did the same thing on both notes. You had this like you brought the resonance back, and then you did the same thing with that note. You like mirrored them. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah, moving that resonance around and changing your mouth shape, and it's great.
Yeah,
do so much with it.
Brings so much interest out. Okay, we got to break down that section.
Oh God,
I've already, man. It's like we've been saying, so many different placements, right?
Yeah.
Head voice, mixed voice, brash, nasality, forward placement, pitch screams, varying degrees of compression in those pitch screams, right? Like there's this sense that you're sort of Chester Bennington there, where you hear mostly the note, and then the grit, compression, the engagement takes over the pitch sometimes. Ugh. I love that section because you have this sense at the beginning of the line that there's pitch, but there's not a note, right? It's like this spoken, almost Rage Against the Machine sort of thing. And then by the end of the phrase, you've centered in on an actual note, and then you have the listener, and so you draw them down in pitch.
Yeah.
And with all that grit in there. Talk about this kind of line. Are you taking like 40 takes to try to get it exactly the way you want it, or is it more like you've practiced these placements, you know what's going on in your own voice from a sensation standpoint, and then when you step in and record it, you can pretty much get it?
Pretty interesting story with this particular part. Super emotional part. The way that we started recording was I was in a different room altogether behind the producer was in the control room, and I felt very disconnected because the way that I record myself, and I've been very DIY over the years, is I have a very particular process of layering vocals, tracking vocals, editing at the same time. I do it all in one bubble, and I know what I can achieve, and I know how to achieve it. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I ended up moving into the same room, and then I eventually sat next to my producer, and I recorded this sat down, and and it was just a very intimate, close experience with Kat, and I did a full take maybe 3 or 4 full takes to start with, and we got the main producer to come in, and he heard it, and we were really buzzing about it, and he was like, yeah, I think you should go away and learn it. Go and stand on a hill for a couple of days, learn it, and then come back and do it. And I listened to it, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And when he left the room, I was like, okay, Kat, sit down. We're getting it now. We're doing it. And so it was like, right, focus. I know I can do this. And we did like maybe 3 or 4 full takes. And some of them were like nearly perfect, but some of them had nice character in them. So there wasn't an element of editing together the perfect take for this. So actually learning it for live, which I was actually starting to do today on stream, very difficult section to do because there are no real opportunities to take a decent breath. You're building up a constant level of compression, and it's very hard to get to the end of that whole section and sing it and do it justice because of the amount of pressure that is being built up. So what you've got to do at that point is break it down into sections and think about, do I need to, for a split second, pull away and not lengthen that note so much? I've got at least a little to go into the next part. And then it's a case of building a different version for live, because it would be nigh on impossible. It would be probably like 80% the same, but there may be some slight variations where I can take a quick breath. So otherwise it's very unrealistic.
You're budgeting your energy and your vocal engagement, because if you were doing full-on pitch screams in that range for as long as you do it here, you're going to burn out your voice. You have to. Whereas you can burn out your voice in the studio, right? You probably weren't in the best of sensational shape when you got done recording these passes.
I've always been very, very careful in the studio, and to be fair, I've probably been coasting a bit too easily these past few albums, because I've always had my eye on how is this going to translate live, and I want to be able to do it justice. So I've always slightly limited my performance so that it's a realistic representation live and quite close to the record. But by doing that, I feel like I haven't done myself justice, because I feel like a record is capturing a moment in time, and that as long as you are confident enough to realize that if you go above and beyond in the studio, when you take it live, you can actually manage and reshape it to a point where it's nearly close to being album perfect, but it's slightly different, then you're okay to push the boundaries in the studio, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're doing both. You're giving yourself permission to be artistically different and in different mindsets, even between live and studio. But you're using the studio as a way to train new things into your voice, and that's huge. Mm. But I love the variety, the all the different playful character arcs that are going on line by line with this section. I love it when the major third just gets like pushed into you like that. Everything's so minor and desperate, and then there's this comfort of that major, like, warm hot chocolate note. Oh, that was beautiful. Yeah. And I also, noticing it again on this section, you are going back and forth between heavy engaged pitch screaming and clean head voice. This is one of the reasons you could do this in one pass.
Yeah, well, also doing those pure head voice notes, you're obviously not using any falsetto there. It's all compressed. It's very edgy on the vocal cords. That is adding to that build-up of pressure constantly. So it's a trade-off. I feel like I've got my work cut out for me, but I'm up for the challenge, you know.
I really liked that little crack that you left in there. It sounds like an articulation. It's right here. On May, it's like your voice is breaking more than you meant it to, but it's juicy and great.
Yeah.
Oh, is there an interval there? Is that happening? Are the
sides?
Yeah. And is there
it's just a double. There is a harmony in there, I think. But there's also
is that up there too?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have the you have that chord transition happening. That's sick. Ooh, there's some of those lows, those side screams that you layered underneath those pitches. What is that character over here doing? It's hardly there.
He's going crazy. Screaming.
There's some...
Yeah, there's lots of things.
Yeah, there's some more pitches that you didn't lock it in with pitch correction. There's this sag to it that feels right. It's just a little under pitch.
Yeah. I actually edited the vocals to this record, and I made sure to not alter the natural quality of the takes too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some bits which are like just aligned and just made to sit a bit better, because that's just the nature of tying things together. But a lot of it is just a natural, balanced, quadded or triple take combined. There's so many layers. I mean, I view writing music with my voice like adding to the paint of a picture. You know, with every harmony, it's an extra stroke of the brush, and I don't shy away from that. Some people don't like all the layers and the harmonies, but for me, it adds so much bigness. I love that.
There is so much exposed imperfection. Like, it makes perfect sense what you said about letting them be and layering on top of those things that you're just letting be. You're not over editing, you're not pitch correcting, you're not time aligning and vocal lining a bunch of stuff. And I think that's the best of both worlds, because you're capturing all these different characters, all these different storylines. Each one of these voices has their own arc, their own character and storyline, and then you have the global story that's working together. You're painting and vocalizing in a way that supports exactly what you're trying to do with the story of the song, right? They're so connected, and it's becoming a lost art, that way of working, because of the tools we have, the pitch correction and pursuit of perfection.
When we were in the studio, we actually made a point of saying, before we record this, what are the main emotions we want to get out of it? Vulnerability was one of the main things, and there's no better way than being vulnerable by leaving a raw vocal in there that's just not quite hitting the note from time to time. That's a big vulnerability which goes with the character. A lot of pain, a lot of angst, a lot of frustration, and you can hear that throughout. So
totally.
I think that's probably my favorite song on the album, just because of the amount of thought that went into the vocal, to be honest.
Well, we've got like 17 seconds left. Are we missing? Let's see. Oh, that's it. Okay.
Nice little outro on the piano there.
Yeah.
This whole swell with the synths is to represent the idea of this dark water that exists in this strange land, and it's the raw manifestation of thought and energy. And so whenever you hear that pulsating, you listen to the heart of the world that we've created.
This is going to be one of those lock myself down in the basement with my favorite pair of headphones and listen to it start to finish.
That's the thing. I think you need a good pair of headphones for this album because you're going to miss out on a lot of details.
Yeah.
If you don't.
Yeah. Oh, man. So you said this was your favorite song on the album just because of how thought out the vocals are.
Well, I actually had a really vulnerable moment when I was recording it. Whenever I record stuff, like, it has to have meaning. Like, emotion is the biggest thing for me in music. And so my eyes were closed and I was physically giving every ounce of my being into that recording. Like, I honestly walked away from that process saying that I could not have done any more. That was everything I could give. And while I was recording this process, I was getting really into it and very, very emotional and being very vulnerable because I was sat a foot away from my co-producer. And when I finished doing the whole line and I opened my eyes, I was really kind of like welling up, and I turned over to Kat and she was just so teary in her eyes and she was like crying and she was like so overwhelmed and she was like, I can't believe what we've just created. Like, it's just amazing. So like that is the one moment on the album where I actually feel like I reached my zenith. Like, that's the pinnacle for me.
You're not ashamed to land and abandon into that head voice, right? There's some serious Jeff Buckley inspiration going on here where you're pushing into something so violently and then floating out of the line. Something that Buckley did so well, but you're taking it to another level because you're adding the pitch screams in there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Jeff Buckley is like the most amazing singer the world's ever had. But like, I don't place myself anywhere in that league. But I think what really does help with this end section is that very vulnerable vibrato on the end of each little line. Because that for me is the thing that makes me really want to cry. It's like it's a whimper. It's like a submission. It's like, I can't take this, but I need to give more. And there's a constant push and pull between, I want to give in, but I've got to keep going, and I can't do it, but you can do it. You know, it's like, it's a real battle.
Yeah, you totally sense that push and pull, right? Anger, resentment, rage, and then like recoil and desperation, and ping-ponging back and forth between those two emotions.
It's a really weird thing to put timidity next to rage.
Yes. Yes.
And then combine that.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, no, you're welcome. I really appreciate chatting about it, honestly. It's great to sit with a vocal coach and actually analyze this stuff. It's something that I haven't done at all. I mean, I know I do teach myself, but it's a different thing when you sit with somebody and get that other perspective. So I appreciate the analysis, actually. It's really going to help me to think about how I do this live. So I appreciate it.
Are you gonna spread love or hate? Are you gonna spread love or hate? Are you gonna spread love or hate?